Hi, welcome to the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association School Board District 7 candidate debate. I'm OSHNA Vice President Lynn Gray. This is the final debate in this series focused on August's primary elections. You can see both the Board of County Commissioners District 3 debate and the School Board District 5 debate videos on our website at oldseminoleheights.org or on our Facebook page. Starting later this week, we will be sharing a series of Meet the Candidate videos focusing on the primary races we haven't held debates for, including all the judicial seats. These videos will be available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Seminole Heights Tampa, on our website, and on our Facebook page. Tonight, we are excited to welcome the 4 candidates for the School Board District 7 seat. Current board member Lynn Gray, former board member Sally Harris, Jeffery Johnson, and Angela Schroden. Moderating tonight's events will be Creative Loafing's editor-in-chief, Ray Roa. Ray, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me moderate. Thanks to the candidates for their time tonight. Lynn stated the rules, but I will reiterate them. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to questions asked of everyone. In addition, each candidate will receive a question specific to them and their experiences. Again, welcome to the candidates. You have 1 minute to introduce yourself. Up first, Dr. Jeffery Johnson.
Thank you for this time and presence to meet all of you virtually. My name is Jeffery Johnson. I am the father of 3 sons that's located in the school district. I've served as a 3rd and 4th and 5th grade teacher. I've served as an adjunct instructor for Hillsborough Community College, instructor for Warner University, and director of partnerships for Warner University. Professionally, I am the senior manager of neighborhood initiatives for United Way Suncoast, where it is my responsibility to make sure that our communities are solvent and healthy when it comes to financial awareness, economic impact, and workforce development, as we work with the multiplicity of schools as educational advocates to make sure that families are successful and they have as many resources in order to succeed. I am running to make sure that my sons will have great future and legacy in Hillsborough County School District. And I think we have to start setting that pathway forward even now, that we're not thinking from fiscal year to fiscal year, but we're thinking about the outcomes for our children. And that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And let's meet candidate Angela Schroden.
Like most big life decisions that require much thought and reflection, my decision to run for school board is very personal. It's personal to me as a 2nd-generation graduate of Hillsborough County Public Schools. It's personal to me as a former teacher and reading coach and assistant principal and member of the elementary reading team right here in Hillsborough County, who chose to work here as soon as I graduated from USF. It is also personal to me as the mother of 2 boys who are enrolled in Hillsborough County schools, who are at the very beginning of their careers. I have a kindergartner and a 3rd grader. It's exceptionally personal to me as the mother of an autistic child who recognizes the challenges that parents often face when they have to advocate for the supports and services that their children deserve. And it's personal to me as a current educator who still works all over this nation, supporting districts and educators and schools and creating systems of success. And so for all those reasons, my decision to run is personal. I have a vested 4-decade-long interest in the success of Hillsborough County Public Schools.
Thank you. And Sally Harris, would you like to reintroduce yourself to some of the voters?
Thank you. I would enjoy that. I'm a mother of 4 children, all who attended Hillsborough County Schools, as well as myself. I also have raised over 30 foster children. I am approachable. I consider myself a change engine with lots of energy. I'm a great listener. I'm in the community as involved as I can be. I'm dependable. And I have been a teacher at Monroe Middle School and Tampa Bay Tech for 18 years. I was a career counselor, and I have been involved in PTA and nonprofits over my time, and I'm the owner of Circle C Ranch Preschool, which is in South Tampa, taking care of children from ages 1 up to VPK4 and special needs.
You're muted, Ray.
Lynn, are you there? Sorry, I'm going to periodically mute myself because we have a dance class happening directly next door. You may sound like it's in a nightclub.
Well, and I thank you, Ray and Lynn. Just to let you all know, I'm Lynn Gray, Hillsborough County Public School Board member, District 7 countywide. I've taught countywide everywhere from East Bay to Jefferson High School to Jesuit High School to, well, we can go to Claywell Elementary, Lato, Middleton, taught elementary, middle, and high school and college level. I am also a 58-year-old, I wish I was a little older than that. I have lived here 58 years, and I have two granddaughters, one son, and I have much of my work is in various communities. I have also had community endorsements just of late. The Tampa Bay Times have endorsed me. Also the Hillsborough Classroom Teachers, the Greater Tampa Bay Realtors have endorsed me. The West Central Florida Trade Unions have endorsed me. The AFL-CIO, the Democratic Climate Caucus has endorsed me. The Muslims for Democracy and Fairness have endorsed me. And why this is important, because it reflects the community involvement I have all over this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And this first question is going to be for everybody. I'll read the question, and then I'll call on a specific candidate to answer the question. The first question is, there are 6 schools in Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association's boundaries. All 6 of those schools are Title I. At Hillsborough High, 70% of the students are children from low-income families, and 97% of Cleveland elementary students are children of low-income families. What specific attention will you deliver to address the unique challenges of schools in Old Seminole Heights? Up first to answer this question, Angela Schroden.
So I think it's important to remember that our students attending our Title I schools need to be seen through an asset-based lens and not a deficit lens. And that means that we have students who need to be supported, not fixed. So offering a full suite of wraparound services to support them physically, academically, socially, and emotionally is very important. But support often also means more time, more practice, more resources for learning. So rethinking how to organize the instructional day so that teachers feel they have the autonomy and the time to meet the needs of their students, rather than fulfilling a mandate or a schedule handed down to them from someone who doesn't work in their building, nor know the children, is important. So one of the things that we really need to look at for our Title I schools is listening to what is it that they need, and then meeting the demands.
Thank you. And Lynn Gray, what specific attention will you deliver to address the unique challenges of the schools in Old Seminole Heights?
Well, I mean, I've been to those schools, and it's all about an even playing field, equity-based. I have initiated the PBIS from USF, the Positive Behavior Incentive Support System, which really modifies the behavior for positive rewards for positive behavior. And the idea is, again, this is the same rules for everyone across the high needs district. We did have 50 labeled achievement schools. Now we're down to 29, but nonetheless, we have spread that out. Also, trauma-based teaching from the National Dropout Prevention. Our children in your area have had many incidents of trauma. In speaking of that, many are hungry, many have had domestic abuse. Now they have the COVID. So I have brought in the Dropout Prevention Center to help teachers strategize and be more effective in teaching the various lessons for our children in the high needs areas. And I can go on, but I'm probably out of time. That's what I've done so far.
Thank you. Up next to talk about addressing the challenges of the schools in Old Seminole Heights, Jeffery Johnson.
Thank you. I think in order to understand how do we address those concerns for the students in Seminole Heights, we have to look at the entire family structure and the community structure. It is important to make sure that we have as many academic resources available for the students before and after school, but we also have to understand the climate in which most of them live. They're in lower performing schools because the communities are lower grade when it comes to economic disadvantages. Most of the families that live in those areas are ALICE families, and ALICE is a term used by the federal government for asset limited, income constrained, and employed, basically meaning that you have two-parent households or one-parent household, and they're working two jobs, and so they're unable to go to the school to talk to teachers and to find out the resources that those children need. We have to start a community conversation, not just with the school board, but also with the city of Tampa, to find out what resources we can provide at the school to impact the families as a holistic model. So it's more than just the academics, but it's also about before school and after school. You have many children coming to school who did not get proper sleep last night because mom worked. And okay.
And I'll put I'm not cutting everybody off right away. Finish your thought. Finish your thought. It's we need to hear, what you have to say. I'm just putting it up there to let you know that's the minute. We're not, we're pretty casual.
So can I finish in 10 seconds?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. What I was going to say, you have many students coming to school that are unprepared based on what is happening in their home. Mom and dad have left, so they are left to take care of their younger brothers and sisters. And so they're coming to school at a disadvantage because of what they've done in the home as well as in the community.
Cool. I just want to reiterate, every race is important, but races where our children are involved are very important. So I know I'm going to put my finger up there for 1 minute, but please complete your thoughts and express yourself so that the people who have yet to make a decision about who they're voting for can hear you out and feel like they know you a little bit better when we're done. To finish out this question and talk about how she'll address the unique challenges of the schools in Old Seminole Heights, Sally Harris.
Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, everything that everyone said is absolutely what we would need to do as a whole for the schools. Visiting the schools is probably the key, visiting the community, being able to understand the culture of the neighborhoods of those schools and who they're serving. And then we have to do those wraparound resources and make sure that we meet the needs of all of the students and the families. One thing I will take it a little bit further in is that this is the critical areas where we need to have introduction to vocational programs so that we can help these students get trained for career. So being able to work with Tallahassee and open up the cabinet so that we can go back and offer vocational introduction in the middle schools is absolutely vital. We need to be able to work with these students on their mental health, coping skills, and then be trained to be able to go into a career once they graduate. If you get their interest in one of those, they're not going to drop out. They're going to learn. If they need to read the chapter in order to be able to do robotics, they're going to read the chapter and learn. You have to give them something that they want to do and want to be able to succeed for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the candidates for answering that question. This next one is a candidate-specific question. This question is going to be for you, Lynn Gray. Your campaign literature states we have a reading crisis in our schools. What have you done to help alleviate this during your time on the board?
Well, the first thing I've done is I've volunteered at Sulphur Springs Elementary as a substitute last year to help with the reading deficit of subs to address this. But I mean, that's very pragmatic. But also, moving forward, I have been a huge proponent of the phonics education. In fact, we are now having it's called SIPS, but basically it's helping children learn through sounds, just like, Ray, if you had a language that you had to acquire, German, I remember having to learn that language. It's very guttural, but you have to have the phonics, that experience, and of course you have to have the reading alongside. So we had 9 schools that initiated that, and now we're going to have, we actually bought the programs and the resources, and we're going to have that district-wide, and I was a very big proponent of that. Secondly, the Achieve 3000. We have had this in schools, and actually, Ms. Harris, you know about it because Shore Elementary had great success, and the Lexile percentages went up. In 2018, we went up 50 points, reading level grade level 1, which is your lowest, and it went up to level 3, and that was in 2018. And again, the reason I say this is because there's literacy, rich reading material, a little bit more of challenge. And then, of course, we have the iReady, which is state mandated, and we have the iReady toolbox. But all this is to say it enriches the students' reading acquisition. And I have been a very big proponent of all bases of literacy, because by 3rd grade, if a child can't read, they are more likely to drop out of school. And we know the statistics probably pretty readily what happens when the reading ability is low. Thank you.
Thank you. Second question of the forum tonight is a question for all the candidates. I'll read the question and then call on the candidates to answer. Question is, pride in a neighborhood is built in part by students attending their neighborhood school as opposed to attending a charter or private school. How do we encourage parents to send their child to schools here in Old Seminole Heights and keep that per pupil spending in the neighborhood? Up first to answer this question, Sally Harris.
Well, I think, first of all, we have to get the schools to the point where the parents want them to go there. And there has to be something that they're proud. Being able to go to your neighborhood school is critical, because that's when your loyalty comes in. That's when your volunteers, your parents, they feel comfortable. The school is the hub of the neighborhood. And in order to be able to meet the needs of those students, you have to have family support in there. So what I would do is, again, dealing with vocational, I would work with the community, some of our resources out in the community where we get lots of opportunities where the kids could visit or shadow people, have mentors come in, share career opportunities right there in the Seminole Heights area, and be able to promote the community and what's available to the students. Develop partnership. They just really build on the academics. Bring in the community to be mentors for the kids. There's so many exciting things that you can do. And I think that the Achieve 3000 is one of those programs that does encourage that age group.
Thank you, Sally. Up next, answer the question is Jeffery Johnson.
Great question. Thank you for that, Ray. And I agree with Sally. This is a concerted effort that will take place by the entire community. If there's going to be a level of pride that is within our neighborhoods, it takes place from community stakeholders and families corralling together, making this a place where we want to be. So the infrastructure and the support system that is at our schools comes from those who are actively involved and impacting the schools, those who are mentoring, those who are volunteering, those communities that are adopting classrooms and adopting the school. You have to make it a place to where this is where I want my child to go. Not only that, if we say that there are some academic decreases from that school, how can we volunteer? How can we give support? Those that are retired, how can they come in and provide academic support or even reading rooms for the children? This is a continual effort that takes place with everyone in that community. You have to see the impact of this is ours, and this is what we want to see in our community. Old Seminole Heights is not far from where I pastor in East Tampa, and so we see that. My church was in Seminole Heights. We were renting a building in Seminole Heights when the Seminole Heights killer was there 2 years ago. We made sure we provided resources for the community to give back, to make sure that residents felt safe in the Seminole Heights community. So it's a community effort.
Thank you, Doctor. Up next to answer this question about encouraging parents to send their kids to schools in Old Seminole Heights and keep pure pupil spending in the neighborhood, Lynn Gray.
Yes, I'm a very big proponent of public education, and I've actually voted several times, not against charter schools, but for the oversight and the accountability systems to be equal to those of public schools. We've lost millions and millions of dollars every year, not only in FTE, but we've been defunded by Tallahassee greatly, and adding it all up is very depressing. But going back to the question, yeah, we have to become more competitive, and we shall. One of the reasons we have a new superintendent is exactly for that reason. But right now, I'm working on with the superintendent the idea of equality of oversight and accountability, and specifically free and reduced lunches, ESE, transportation, how are they treating those ELL? In other words, those expectations of us, public schools, need to have the same for the charter schools. And we have the mental health services. We have the extracurriculum activities. And I say this about public schools. We do a great job, but we can't rest on our laurels, and we have to build a stronger, let's just say, a stronger united curriculum and a community buy-in. But let me just say this, communities are what make the schools. And when I address the fact that I'm involved with communities, that's because they make the very school. Just like your Seminole Heights, you have a very tight community and you're very involved.
Thank you. And last to answer this particular question, Angela Schroden. Angela, you still there?
Got it. Yeah. So, one of the things that I never want to lose sight of is that we have to recognize and keep at the forefront the humanity in what we do. Because as an educational system, we are in the people business. So students, and by extension, their family and caregivers, want to attend a school where they feel welcomed, known, celebrated, supported, and where kids are learning and excited about learning. And by being surrounded by people who value who they are, just as they are, and see what they can be and can do. So creating cultures and an atmosphere in all of our schools that include those elements is crucial to keeping students in our schools. And a part of creating that culture is by including families and students in the conversation, then actively working to actualize their needs about what makes a successful school, and working to create that atmosphere. Decisions should be made with our stakeholders as much as possible. We need to be doing school with them and not to them. So our primary responsibility is to create schools where children thrive, and they thrive in a place where they feel they are celebrated and accepted and challenged.
Thank you. Thank you for all those answers. Next question is a candidate-specific question. This one is for Jeffery Johnson. Jeffery, you are a champion of community partnerships with local schools. How do overburdened and underperforming schools find the time and find the energy to develop these partnerships when they are already stretched so thin?
Could you repeat the latter part of that? It broke up a bit.
Yes. So,
or just the question all over again.
Yeah. You're known as a champion of community partnerships with local schools. How do overburdened and underperforming schools find the time, and how do they find the energy to develop these kinds of partnerships when they are already stretched so thin?
Great question, Ray. I think this once again goes back to the community love and the support that the community gives to that school. You want to make sure that that burden is taken off of the school, that you have a consistent and pre-existing structure in that particular community that provides the level of support that is needed. Now, this does not happen overnight, but if that fabric is created, this will continue to be a process that continues for years to come. Schools are stretched. Administrators are stretched. Educators are stretched. We understand that and we know that. So the community comes in to alleviate that burden, to say instead of feeling stretched even more, we're coming in to provide the resources. We're coming in to provide exactly what is needed. And so we go to the educators, we go to the administrators and say, what is it that we can do as the community to provide that level of support for you? It starts with a conversation. If one person is speaking, if one person is giving information about what they need from the community, then it's up to us as community and educational advocates to make sure that is done and accomplished for the school to remove that burden from our educators and administrators.
Thank you, Doctor. This next question, once again, is a question for all of the candidates. Third question of the forum tonight. And we'd like to know, if you had to make a choice right now and had children in the house, would you send them to school under the current pandemic plan? Why or why not? Up first, Lynn Gray.
Well, this is the big question, and this is why I have to leave early tonight, because elected officials, and actually I have 3 county commissioners, we're weighing in on this as in local government and in the communities that I serve. When we talk about the answer, and my personal answer for my grandchildren and my son's answer, I'm going to always be a proponent of err on the side of caution and also be involved with the science that's out there. The actual COVID is out of control, and we should be at 5% before we even think about putting kids inside of classrooms, not to mention our teachers and staff. But right now, I think we're at 22 to 23% of virus spread. We don't have the systems in place, Ray, such as, this is what I want first and foremost. I want on buses CV testing and contact tracing. And I also want our business communities and our local governments to help with childcare, because when we work together, again, communities make the schools. So when we start saying we're going to go online for 9 weeks, that's easy to say. Everybody wants to say something, but you actually have to make sure that the individuals that it involves are taken care of. And the other part of that equation, of course, is childcare and food. How, if I have online learning, how am I going to help my kids? I can't be there. And how am I going to get them to eat their food? Now, 63% of our population is poverty or below poverty level. So this is not insurmountable, but I'm right now talking to Plant City, the community leaders there, and we're going to begin talking about childcare. That's essential, but that's where I'm going into the 9 weeks. I already have my amendment. I have everything ready on that front for tomorrow's meeting.
Okay. Thank you. And understandably, this is the question of the day right now. Sally Harris, what do you say about that?
Well, it's a very tough place to be, and I can actually tell you I'm kind of glad I'm not there having to make that decision, because any way you vote, it's going to be a hard way. But I will say that I have mixed feelings. I feel like that by given the choice, and I'm kind of a choice person, I like people to have choices. And I feel like if the teachers could choose to go back or not go back, and if they chose to do the e-learning, that they have that choice to do. I feel that those who are ready for those kids to go back and want to give it a try, that we should be able to do that. So I'm voting for, like, give it a try. If we have to close down, we close down immediately. That's okay. We can do that. We've already proven that we could do it. I've never seen anything happen so fast as it did in March. So I know we can do it if we needed to. So I don't have a problem with doing a choice.
You're muted, Ray.
Thank you, Sally. Up next would be Angela Schroden.
I would not. In fact, I did not. I've already had to send in my declaration of intent as a parent, and my declaration of intent was to keep my children home. There is nothing about the numbers that are happening in Hillsborough County that supports taking 200,000 children and putting them in a small space. There's nothing about the numbers that supports that. Not scientifically, not logistically. When we think about the square footage of most of our schools, of taking children and putting them in close proximity, it would be difficult and challenging to do one of the number one recommendations to keep people safe, and that's keeping people at a 6-foot distance. So I'm concerned about the numbers of human beings returning to enclosed small spaces, that it'll exacerbate the spread. And what we've had up until now is the ability for children to not be in those small spaces, right? So I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed that we didn't begin these conversations in June about thinking and having leadership that was creative about how to solve this problem, right? Because, one of the other candidates said this, and they're absolutely right. There is no great answer to this problem. There's no great answer. But with the idea of, had we begun working and having open forums where there was communication, not an FAQ, not a send in your questions, but open forums for both educators who are literally on the front line of having to deal with what is a social health problem. This is not a school problem to solve. This is a public health crisis. Right? So between our educators and our committed parents who are smart and knowledgeable, we really could have been making strides to think creatively about how do we solve this problem while keeping everyone safe.
Thank you. And last to answer this very important question, Jeffery Johnson.
Yes, I believe that effective leadership must be the driving force behind all of this. Because it is a fluid situation, I believe that we have responded more reactive than proactive. I do believe that this decision should have, and this conversation should have started months ago. And I felt as if beyond an email and beyond the declaration of intent, parents should have had more of an opportunity, as well as teachers, to voice their opinions, not only in a written form, but in a vocal manner. Many parents struggle to see the weekly school board meetings at 4:00 p.m. Working parents, they are working. We have to create forums in which they are able to be a part of that. Their comments are not censored when they are sent to the school board, and the school board doesn't like that. Parents are frustrated. Parents are angry and upset. Not only that, teachers are upset and frustrated, but they fear of speaking out based on the retaliation of them not having the support of those who may be their leaders over them. For my family, we've chosen to make sure that our children are in a learning environment virtually. Because of that, it is not stable in Florida. There is no way that we can say that there is stability in Florida. There is no stability. And we have to take that language off of the table because the cases are going up. The positive cases are going up because of that. And let me say why this is personal. My sons had to be removed from summer camp because the summer camp counselor tested positive. I had to test my entire family. I could not go back to work until I had tested. My sons cannot go back. So we have to make decisions. This is real, but we have to provide resources for our parents if they're not able to keep their children at home to make sure they're safe, even in a brick and mortar aspect.
Thank you. And we will look to see the results of tonight's meeting that Lynn Gray is going to. And we'll probably hear a lot more about that issue going forward. This particular question is a specific one for Sally Harris. Sally, vocational training is very important to you. What specific things does the district need to do to increase and improve these training opportunities for students?
Well, the district was and has been moving into this department quite rapidly, actually. Over the years, when I got elected in 2014, they had taken all the vocational programs out of the high schools, and we had Tampa Bay Tech and a few other schools available. So what I feel that we need to do right away is it's legislatively mandated that we cannot do a wheel or introduction to vocational programs in the middle school. So the first thing we would have to do is lobby with legislation to get that removed so that we could start doing that. And then we have the resources right here. We have the programs, we have everything is right in the district, and we could immediately start putting that into our middle schools and then start opening up the programs in our high schools and get them started. And you can start small. You could start with 2 or 3 of the most popular. And then as we see if the students start enrolling in them and encourage them, grow the programs at that way. So I'm really excited about having that opportunity to make that happen.
Thank you. We're going to move back to a question for all of the candidates. It's no secret that many members of the public are dissatisfied with the superintendent's lack of specifics on the district reopening plan. So this is a very pointed question. What specifically should a school do if a teacher or staff member tests positive for COVID-19? Up first, answer the question, Jeffery Johnson.
Good question. And that is a loaded question. I think a lot of persons are frustrated with the superintendent. I have not had the chance to meet him personally, so I don't have any personal feelings about his work ethic. I do know that Mr. Davis was an elected superintendent. So the way that he governs and make decisions is different than someone that has been hired by a board that has never been in a elected position. So that's one thing that we need to understand. So I kind of get that perspective and how he thinks. The plan that should be in place, the protocols that should be in place is, number one, coming from documented scientific facts from our medical professionals based on this, what should be done, whether there is weekly or bi-weekly testing to make sure that our teachers have their temperatures checked every day. We need to find the guidelines of the professionals. We're in the business of education and academics. We are not medical professionals. And because we're not medical professionals, we need to make sure that we're constantly talking to them them and sharing what they're saying. If there is someone that is on contract with the school district by saying, this is what we believe is best, this is what we will do. But it has to be there. Those protocols have to be in place, and the superintendent must make sure that that conversation is not singular, but is involved with a wraparound program to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with that. Teachers are not going to feel comfortable coming back into the school until there are protocols in place based on something that has been given by a medical professional local in our community that understands what's happening in Hillsborough County.
Okay, thank you. And up next to answer this question, Angela Schroden, what specifically should a school do if a teacher or staff member tests positive for COVID-19?
So I'm gonna use the same word 3 times, and maybe that will say how important it is for me. Transparency, 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 right? And so if we're gonna talk about choice and returning, and we need to give people choice, then that same lens needs to be applied, because it's not gonna be if, it is going to be when this happens. Right? There's no ifs about bringing kids back and wondering if it's going to happen. It is going to be happening. So then we need to ensure that immediately parents are notified so that they can make the decision and have choice about what they want to do, what makes them feel comfortable. I have looked at the plan. I've looked at between the COVID commander and we're going to tell this person and that person, and that's fine. Right? That's fine. But what really needs to happen is the transparency at the point of contact. And of course, we need to be cognizant of HIPAA laws and all of those things. But I know as a parent and as an educator, because I'm both of those things, I want to know as much information as possible. And then I want to be allowed to make my own decision and not feel pressured into making a decision that somebody wants me to make.
All right, thank you. Sally Harris. What specifically should a school do if a teacher or staff member tests positive for COVID-19?
Well, I agree with both of them and what they had to say. I also know that I did read the 52-page plan, and I have to say that I know how stressful the job is for a teacher, especially under these COVID times. And that plan has the teachers doubling their responsibility. Not only do they have to monitor the mask, and they have to, be able to make sure that somebody is wearing the mask. They have to monitor the 6 feet space. They have to monitor if somebody goes somewhere to make sure the tables are wiped off. I come from early childhood. We wipe the tables and wash our hands 1,000 times a day. And I can tell you a teacher is being asked to do more than they can possibly handle in one day while teaching the children. So that's why I say I do believe in the choice, but I know the guidelines in that book is tremendous of what the expectations are. We are going to have to follow CDC guidelines. We're going to have the COVID commander, monitoring it. You're going to have to know what to do, when to do it. And I know it's all possible. You might have to close a classroom down. For how long? Is it the 10 days or is it the 14 days? When can somebody come back testing negative? There will have to be, and it's probably going to be ongoing, and it's going to be ongoing changing as we go. So there is no true right or wrong answer. It's if we go back to school and we have some of the people that choose to go back, then we will monitor and have to have guidelines put in almost daily.
Okay. Thank you. Lynn Gray, what specifically should a school do if or when a teacher or staff member tests positive for COVID-19?
So we had that situation at Mort, and what we did is we closed the school down for one day, and this was the custodian, and the gentleman was taken care of in the hospital. School resumed. This was a small cadre of kids. I'm also, with that example, it led me to the next idea to get the data from the YMCA as to see and find out how many kids did catch the virus, if any, and what did they do. And I'm also getting the data from our own summer school in terms of how many kids did perhaps catch the virus or teachers. So the data is going to come in ever so slowly, But basically, we're not ready to open schools full throttle. I mean, there has to be, number one, the pre-assessments of the community partners, the parents. The parents have to come in with a willingness to have their temperature checked, and their child has to have the mask. The protocols of sanitizing in between classes is not realistic. It usually takes at least a whole day to get I would say half of a wing cleaned. There has to be, and I say this over and over, but there has to be, for sustainability, CV testing sites that parents can go to, and many of them don't have transportation in terms of Waimama, Seffner, Dover, and the Ruskin area. So we have to bring it to them, and we also have to have contact tracing. Now, we're not ready. Also, with childcare, and I say this a few times because it's a monumental reality, how prepared and how many times have we already committed ourselves to talk to Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club, the various Chamber of Commerce? We have partners that will help with this, but we need some time. So, I mean, there's a lot of answers. We're not there yet. And we all know that. We all know that. So we definitely need the time of the 9 weeks.
Thank you. This question is specifically for Angela Schroden. You kind of hit on this in your last answer. Angela, you've worked in multiple positions in the district and with other districts throughout the entire country. What's the best practice that you've seen in another district that you would implement here in your D7 seat?
Sorry. One of the things that I think about specifically, and it was alluded to earlier in the night, if we don't get literacy right in this district, we are doomed. It's not just about ELA, it is about being an effective and thoughtful reader so that you can do anything else in any content area or any job. So if we don't get that right, we're doomed. And I'm thinking about the very high and tight correlation between how long students have to actually read with a thoughtful teacher that's sitting next to them and the increase in achievement. So as we look across our schools, across our classrooms, one of the things that's going to be crucial is how are we creating systems and schedules that allow students to have the time to actually engage in the act of reading, not be on the computer, not talk about reading, not answer a question, to be actually engaged in the act of reading with feedback from a very knowledgeable teacher. And currently what we've put into place is approximately 3 different computer programs that are going to do a lot around reading that take kids away from the actual engagement of reading. We have to get this right.
Okay, thank you. Let's go back to a question for all the candidates. This one's a little bit long, so I'll probably reread it before I talk to each candidate. But the school board service in Florida is a part-time job, and Hillsborough County Public School board members meet just twice a month. However, they are responsible for a $3 billion budget. For the second time in 6 years, a major act of deficit spending appears to have snuck past the board and depleted the reserve fund. So, with Hillsborough County having fewer school board members than any other major school district in the U.S., every other district Hillsborough size that elects school board members has at least 9 members. The question, is it time to increase the size of the school board to reflect the size of the district? And if so, should the new seats be geographic or at large? First answer the question, Sally Harris.
Well, I think that would be awesome for Hillsborough County to be able to do that. If we did that and we got that legislatively approved, I would definitely say we needed to redistrict the district, because some of the school board members travel like 30 to 40 miles just to be able to visit their entire community. And the mileage alone, the districts at large, of course, is the entire county. And that is a very high lift for that person running in that district. And I was one that visited many of the schools every year. And I can tell you the miles on my car were tremendous. So I would say, yes, I love the idea. Whoever wrote that, thank you very much. And I also think it would take redistricting.
Okay, thank you for that. Up next to answer this question, she's on the screen, Lynn Gray. What do you think about that?
I think it really depends. I think it's the quality of the school board member and what they're able to devote the time. I will say that I have waited in my years, have waited till this time because I can be a school board member that is working on it full time. I can drive for, let's see, I average about 50 to 80 miles generally per day, at least 4 days a week, visiting schools and communities. I have the ability to take time to read every school board member. It's a ream of paper at least, and generally we have 2 school board meetings a month. In our workshops, you have to be extremely involved in education to learn about such matters as what we're doing right now, back to school, and how other counties and how other districts are doing it throughout the United States and actually throughout the global community. A school board member has to have a lot of time into the actual community and know the students, know what teaching is about, know business hand in hand. I mean, I had a $250,000 training center business experience, which has helped me greatly. But fiduciary is our huge part of our job, and learning about all the ins and outs and the assets, debits, and all. We're going to spend a whole morning on Tuesday going through the fund balance and all the transfers that occurred. But what I'm saying is the quality of the school board member. Some of these school board members will work just to try it out, see how that feels, and then they'll go maybe in earnest next election time. Some use it as a stepping stone, not a stepping stool, but a stepping stone. And that's happening with 1, 2, 3 of our school board members right now. So I'm there to serve. I have family, but I have enough stability that I can do the job that needs to be done. And I didn't even include school visits. I mean, I'm in schools all the time. Just went to 2 graduations today. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next to answer this very loaded question here, Jeffery Johnson. Again, is it time to increase the size of the school board to reflect the size of the district? And if so, should the new seats be geographic or at-large seats?
Good question, Ray. I don't think it's about a question of whether or not a school board member has the time to do the job effectively. It's about the current design of how the board is now. I think the charter should be rewritten. And for us to be the 6th largest school district in the country, we should have persons who are devoted to give more time and attention to the needs of the school. One workshop will not work. There has to be consistent level of oversight. On my job, dealing with grants, millions of dollars, this is something that you do every day. This is millions of dollars, but you're talking about $3.3 billion. In order to make informed decisions, hours have to be there. The calculated time that a school board member is mandated to make weekly is 20 hours. This cannot be done in 20 hours. Everything that Ms. Gray said, everything that Ms. Harris said, all of those things are required and necessary. How in the world can that be done within 20 hours, especially if you're trying to calculate the distance time from your location to where that next school is? If other schools have a model for a more effective design, we should expand that. And our demographics should reflect that as well, that there should be another district seat and there should be another countywide seat as well, to make sure that we're spreading around the ability to make sure that our schools do not feel left behind, but they feel as if they are heard and they're listened to. But then not only that, the school board member doesn't feel so inundated with the pressures and the designs of what's going to do for the amount of schools that you may have in your district. That is not so many that you can devote as much time as possible, because that amount of schools have been limited because the district has been expanded with more seats and more responsibilities by board members. So it's not about what the board member is able to do, it's about the intentional design of the school board and how that should be redeveloped right now by expanding the current properties of the school board.
Okay. And before we get to you, Angela, a couple of the other candidates were in vote there. So, Lynn Gray, would you like to offer a 30-second rebuttal to that?
Well, I think, when we run away with the main problem or challenge, saying that it's not up to the school board member. Well, it is up to the school board member to put the quality time and the effort. And if they can't, they shouldn't be running for countywide. Countywide is a whole different ballgame than a district. If I had just had District 1 or District 3, it'd be not a piece of cake, but it'd be much easier. But the drive alone is huge. And so I don't go into, let's have more districts. I know the county commission is looking at more. I look into the quality of the individual and what they're willing to put into the job. And that's the same thing in life. Any job that you have in life, it's the quality of the person that is putting themselves into the position and the outcomes that result. If the quality of the person's not there, and if they don't have the time to commit, they should just go ahead and find maybe another position or a district that is District 1, smaller. But it's all a game of experiments with many candidates, and I see this happening all the time. But at any rate, I'm going with the quality and the time. It's very rewarding. It can be done. You don't run away by finding, let's get more. You go right back to yourself and why didn't I give more? Why can't I give more? Well, maybe you shouldn't run.
Okay. And Sally Harris, your name was said in Jeffery Johnson's answer. Was there anything that you wanted to address? And he said it's not like you and him kind of agreed on most of that, but your name
just
was
know
said.
that I invoked their name to agree with what they said.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't call them out. I agreed with what they said.
Perfect.
And I agree with what they said, so I'm fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody was cool.
Sally, I love you.
About Angela. Angela, is it time to increase the size of the school board to reflect the size of the district? If so, should the new seats be geographic or at large?
All right. So I actually did do a little research, right? It's kind of what I do for a living. It's what I did when I was working on my doctoral dissertation, right? So, and what I found was, so we've got Houston Independent School District, which is slightly larger than us, with about 216,000 students. They have 9 school board members. We have Orange County, which is not far from us. They have about 200,000 students. They have 8 members. We've got Palm Beach County, which is at 192,000 students, or roughly a little bit smaller than ours. They have 7 members. So to be honest, we're fairly square in the middle for our size of an average of what school board members have. But with that said, let me add that 2 things we should keep in mind: that anytime people can have more representation, it's usually a service to the people, right? Just like more support for students in a classroom. If there are more school board members, there's more time, more attention, increased ability to listen and advocate and do the work. However, that comes with an also increase in taxpayer dollars, right? For salaries and an increased need for consensus building among the people on the board, which I don't think can be overlooked, right? So in all honesty, my answer to this question, I think, is best answered after hearing feedback from the people we actually serve, from the community, the taxpayers, our own schools, because I think we need to act to meet the needs of our community, not just act to make the job easier.
Thank you. And this is the 6th question of the night. It is for all the candidates. Let's ask, how would you ensure the school board is informed and providing oversight to the superintendent as he makes decisions regarding the plan for reopening schools? We're going to go with current school board member Lynn Gray first.
Well, to begin with, I speak with to the superintendent just about daily. And I meet with his staff weekly. So, I mean, the idea of communication is critical, but what's happening now is we have someone in the middle versus superintendent to school board member. We have what is called the state, the Tallahassee. And Tallahassee is right now holding a carrot out of called funding. And if we don't have brick and mortar, we might not get funding for the online. Now, all this is to say, communication is definitely key, but all the great plans, and we're coming out with a new revised plan tomorrow at 3:00, all the plans that can be made in the whole wide world, if it's not backed by not only the federal actually, but the state government, we're getting maneuvered and we're getting detoured all the time right now. Not the superintendent's intent. He doesn't wake up in the morning saying, oh, let's look for another change. He wants stability. We all want stability, but right now Tallahassee is not affording that. And all the local officials know that. We all know that. We talk together. We're facing a tremendous funding change because of lack of taxes, of course. The COVID is creating crises. And we say we shouldn't be reactive. Well, heck, if you're not fluid right now, if you don't know how to react in the sense of the word, then you're not a prepared person, because we have to now think about all of the logistics of, all right, if we have brick to mortar, but suddenly if we pivot and go back to e-learning, how do you think staffing is taken care of? How do you think transportation is taken care of? How do you think lunch distribution is taken care of? It is so easy to say we should do so-and-so, but unless you know how a school is run, and unless you know how the superintendent is thinking, you in Tallahassee, and unless you have relationships with local government and business partners, you do not know the intricacies of decisions right now. And it's sad that it's like that, but it's a day-to-day. That's why our emergency board meeting is happening tomorrow. And it may happen again on next Monday. So enough said about that.
All right. Up next to answer this question, Jeffery Johnson.
Ray, when you were saying the question, there was a fire alert that was happening outside, or some type of siren. Could you repeat the question, please?
That again. How would you ensure that the school board is informed and providing oversight to the superintendent as he makes decisions regarding the plan for reopening schools?
Good question. I think this is, it deals with the communication, the daily communication that you will have with the superintendent. This is true in the comment in which I referred to earlier about some decisions that we could have made should have been proactive. There are some things that must be proactive because it is a fluid situation. But the only way to make sure that those decisions are made and they are consorted is based on having constant communication with the people that are at the table. All of the parties need to be involved. But the thing is about it, it shouldn't just be the school board member talking to the superintendent, but the school board member has to make sure that you're listening to your administrators, listening to parents, and having those town hall meetings, Zoom meetings, whatever that may be, so that when you can go back to the superintendent, this is what I'm hearing, and this is at the behest of the parents that we have. Now, there are a lot of instructional things and there are a lot of administrative things that take place behind the scene that a normal person would not know unless you've been there. So that purpose of being there understands what needs to be, what should take place at that moment in time. But it starts with that level of communication. This is not the time for politics to get into place. You already know what's going on. We're receiving things federally as well as statewide about what should be done, how it should be done. But all of that doesn't fit every box. We have to see what works exactly for Hillsborough County. And so we have to put personal feelings to the side and we have to sit down and have a very thorough conversation by saying, how do we move this ball forward, and try as much as possible, because it is unclear. How do we try to plan for future things, just in case, contingency plans, just in case something of this magnitude happens again? So there has to be daily communication, not a weekly workshop, not a weekly time, daily communication, at least an hour briefing every day with board members and the superintendent, so to make sure that they're on the same page.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Up next to answer this question about oversight to the superintendent, Angela Schroden.
There you go. So what I think is missing from the conversation about oversight of the superintendent is, it's like there's a missing piece that I almost feel like they feel like they're communicating, but the people receiving the message don't feel like they're being heard, right? And I was listening to Dr. Johnson talk about that daily communication, a daily brief. And the thing that I think is important is it's not just about communication one way, it's about an actual dialogue. Because what happens in the absence of information or in the absence of having somebody hear you is oftentimes frustration and panic and fear. And what leadership does, right, is quell that. That's one of the main responsibilities of a leader. How do I make everybody in this organization, all of our stakeholders, feel good about the decisions that we're making? And so this is beyond just anecdotal evidence of whether it's people texting me or seeing it on social media or having people call me. There is a genuine sense in this community that people don't have a full picture of what's happening, in spite of an entire website and an FAQ and a dialogue. We still have questions, and there has to be some two-way communication. So what is the oversight to the superintendent? Being vocal and asking, when is that going to happen? And frankly, why didn't it happen starting back in March or April or June?
Thank you. Sally Harris, how would you ensure the school board is informed and providing oversight to the superintendent as he makes decisions regarding the plan for reopening schools?
Well, I think that to start off with, there has to be a plan. You have to have the expectation of where we're going to take it. And then the superintendent and the school board members, they always have had meetings. They call them one-on-ones. And if you meet and every single day, and the superintendent does that with each board member, depending on if it's a 15-minute meeting or an hour meeting, that would be at least 2 to 3 hours of his day and 7. So maybe now that we've all learned how to Zoom, maybe we could do Zoom meetings. But anytime you have more than one board member meet, it has to be noticed. So there's lots of sunshine laws and rules on how to really, be able to communicate with the superintendent on a regular basis. But I would say, first of all, we have to be able to know where he's headed. The communication, transparency has to be there. And then the expectations of how we're going to get there, set the goals. And then as a board member, it's our job to hold him accountable for that. And if there's a change in that plan, again, it's his job to let the board know ahead of time what his plan to change is. So it's a matter of communication and how you get that job done, that the school board and the superintendent would have to work out what methods would work and still be able to abide by the sunshine law.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for all the questions tonight. I want to thank everybody for all their time. We will have some closing statements, and every candidate will have a minute to do that. We'll go ahead and start with Angela Schroden.
Well, Ray, I want to thank you and the Old Seminole Heights for hosting this night tonight. I think it's always important that you have a collective group come together to try and solve problems. So I also want to say to my fellow candidates, right, thank you for trying to get in here and solve the problems. I recognize we don't always agree on what the solutions may be, but we're all fighting for the health and safety and amazing schools. And so, I think I would want to end by saying, for me, as a parent and an educator that has children that are just beginning their educational career in Hillsborough County Public Schools, I think we are in a moment that requires change and a new vision, and someone that has some experience working across the nation and seeing how other things have worked and how they're successful. And I think I'm the candidate to do that. So I appreciate your time tonight, Ray.
Thank you. Up next, have a closing statement, Sally Harris.
Thank you. And again, thank you for this opportunity. It has been fun. I love the questions tonight. They've been very different, very, very focused. I like that. I just want to say that in my 4 years on the board that I did accomplish quite a bit. I was very instrumental in saving the district $1.2 million in energy savings. I saw a graduation rate change from 73% to 86.2%. During entering the board, there were 2,500 vocational certificates, and when I left, there were 7,000. We had a balanced budget, and I worked a lot with the military and issues that they had. What I have left to do is some health insurance benefits that I'd like to see the district change, college and career connectivity, and vocational introduction into middle schools, and definitely mental health and the safety of our kids, and teaching our kids as early as kindergarten coping skills to be able to deal with life and all the experiences they have. So again, thanks, and I hope I have the opportunity to serve District 7 as your school board member, Sally Harris.
Thank you. And second to last here, Lynn Gray, as you're on your way to a meeting here.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you, Ray and Lynn, for hosting this. I will continue vigorously working on my Hispanic forums with increasing translators, increasing connectivity with communication with parents to their students, and to students with the teachers. And I will continue my expanding the African American studies in elementary, middle, and high school. I'll continue equity programs such as the trauma-based model, Hillsborough Healthy Schools, and other initiatives that I have that have been built in for equity purposes. I am very much involved in education. I am an experienced educator. I've been on the school board, and I know how it works. Is not simple. And it took me about 2 years really to understand it, and I'm still learning. You do need to have a school board member that's ready to go, not in 2 years, but right away. The familiarity of infrastructure and fiscal familiarity is greatly, let's just say, we're not paying attention to that. The learning curve is tremendous. And the idea of the curriculum and curriculums in every grade, elementary, middle, and high school, is huge. You have to have them to match the demographics that you're teaching. So the familiarity of communities is very, very important. But at any rate, I am willing to serve again. I will work full time, and I will do my best to meet the needs during this challenging situation, which is back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. And last for a closing statement tonight, Jeffery Johnson.
Thank you, Ray, for this opportunity to speak to the residents of Old Seminole Heights from a perspective of heart and passion and vision and focus. I think as never before, this is a time in which we have to marry multiple backgrounds in order to make sure that our school district is absolutely and extremely successful. Because of COVID and the fluidity of this monstrosity, we need to make sure that all stakeholders have a seat at the table, and that there is someone that understands the advocacy of community development, educational enhancement, and to be a collaborator. You need someone that is able to bring all parties together. One thing that COVID has taught all of us is that everything seems to be out of control. Our schools, our governments, our communities, so many things are happening right now. And so if everyone is going to come together, it has to take place at the level in which we're developing our children. That's the reason why I'm running for school board. I have 3 sons in the school district, and I want to make sure that someone is there to make sure that my sons and all of our sons and daughters have as many resources as possible in order to be successful. You can learn more information about me at Jeffery, Jeffery, for schoolboard.com, and see why many elected officials have endorsed my campaign. As a first-time candidate, I've received more elected official endorsements than anyone else documented today. Is because of my proven track record and community development to bridge all of these aspects together to make a change from education to community development.
All right. Thank you so much to all the candidates. Thank you for your time on a Wednesday evening. I think I'm going to stay on the line with Lynn to wrap some things up. If anybody wants to watch replays of this or see the candidate intro videos, they can find the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association Facebook page and find links to that. There's a website for the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association, and that'll be updated as well. So thanks again to the District 7 candidates for school board. Have a safe night and a safe